Good morning. Today you are learning the competency is 62.6, that is describe, identify formation, branches and major areas of distribution of circle of Willis. The specific learning objective for this is describe the blood supply to the cerebral hemisphere with special attention to the circle of Willis. So before learning the blood supply of a brain or in detail about circle of Willis, so I'm sure that already you have done the sulci gyri in detail. In that the special mention is the lateral sulcus, central sulcus, right? On a suprolateral surface, the frontal pole, temporal pole, occipital pole, all these sulci gyri you should have a knowledge. Then on the medial surface, you should know that there is a corpus callosum, callosal sulcus, right? Then there is a cingulate sulcus, cingulate gyrus. Then there is an occipital lobe, temporal, parietal, frontal, isn't it? The different functional areas on a supralateral surface, special mention here. So you should have an idea. Already it is done. So before learning the blood supply, you should have done this. That is special mention here is the primary motor cortex, then the primary somatosensory or the special sensory areas, that is Broca's, olfactories or the primary and the association visual areas, right? Along with you should have a knowledge about how the other functions like a right brain is more pronounced for a creativity, imagination, holistic thinking, and compare there is a left brain, the logical, analytic thinking, sequencing, linear. So all this you should have learned already. You have done these classes. So with this basic knowledge we should start with the blood supply of brain, right? So before that, there is an interesting case here. There is a 65-year-old man suffering from a chronic high blood pressure. Suddenly, he suffered from a contralateral hemiplegia, hemianesthesia, and a loss of speech. So he was taken to hospital where he was diagnosed as a case of cerebral stroke. There comes a question, what is a cerebral stroke? Name the arteries which supply the cerebral hemisphere. Which cerebral artery is likely to be involved in the given case? Right? So these questions will be asked on this case. So at the end of this class, you will be able to answer these questions. There is one more interesting case here. A 47-year-old man was washing his car. He suddenly complained of a severe headache and collapsed to the ground. His son took him to the emergency department where, on examination, the patient was lethargic but responsive to the deep pain stimuli. There was no motor activity to suggest epileptic seizures. Then, a CT scan of head showed a significant intracranial hemorrhage. Now, this case was diagnosed as a ruptured berry aneurysm. So simple questions after this case will be asked, like what are berry aneurysm, which artery is prone for a berry aneurysm, right? So what is a stroke? I repeatedly told in both the cases there is a stroke, right, or a cerebrovascular accident. So why this topic is so much important? You must have heard there is a stroke happened for this such and such person, or he got an hemiplegia, he got this. So all these comes as a cerebrovascular accidents. So what are these? There could be a blockage in an artery that is give rise to a cerebral infarction. Whenever there is a block, so that part of a brain which is supplied by that artery won't get a blood supply, so leading to a infarction. It could be from a carotid arterial system, that is internal, or a basilar artery. Bleeding within the brain, that is intracerebral hemorrhage. The hemorrhage could be of a aneurysm, rupture of aneurysm, or a subarachnoid hemorrhage, or intracerebral when there is increased hypertension, that is increased blood pressure is there, small uh, arteries, that is a striate artery, especially prone for a hemorrhage, right? So most commonly is there is a Charcot's artery, which are prone for a cerebral hemorrhage, intracerebral hemorrhage. This is a Viva question. So that leads to damage to one side of the body. That is always a contralateral. Remember, already you had done all the tracks, you learned the brainstem, you learned the cerebral hemisphere, so you know that the lesions in the cerebral level will give rise to a symptoms or a signs as a contralateral, opposite side. So I repeat, a cerebrovascular accident could be because of a block or a hemorrhage. Both are stroke. So this picture is easily understanding for you. So this you can appreciate due to blockage. There is a lack of blood supply give rise to infarction. Or there could be a rupture of a smaller vessel or a bigger also subarachnoid, then can give rise to a hemorrhage and cerebrovascular accident because that part of a brain doesn't function, leading to a contralateral complications, right? So, a sudden, what is a stroke here is sudden occlusion of a cerebral artery or a rupture of a blood vessel causing bleeding, that is cerebral hemorrhage. Both occlusion or a hemorrhage. So, there are always, they say that there is a hemorrhagic stroke or a block stroke is there, isn't it? Infarct stroke, two types will be there. So give rise to a death of a brain tissue, that is brain infarct, that is together cerebrovascular accident. They could be related to carotid artery and its cerebral branches, give rise to a contralateral sensory or a motor deficit depending on if it is a dominant hemisphere, that is aphasia. Then it could be of a vertebro-basilar circulation. Then a focal brainstem syndrome occurs because vertebral artery and its branches, that is basilar and the posterior cerebral, they mainly supply the brainstem with cerebellum and a part of a occipital and the temporal lobe. So usually the vertebro-basilar when is affected in a stroke then give rise to brainstem syndromes. So the it could usually then it is a ipsilateral. See, I repeat here, this part will be a contralateral and here ipsilateral incoordination, but again contralateral hemisensory loss will be there. So all these things, it is a summary because already you have learned the cerebral hemisphere functional areas, brainstem, each part of a brainstem. So you know the functions of all these things. So which part is affected give rise to what loss. So you know this, right? So starting with our blood supply of a brain. So the brain gets arterial supply. It's a long question topic. So it's a arterial supply from a pair of internal carotid and a pair of vertebral arteries. Both arterial system forms a polygonal anastomosis called the circle of Willis. This is a 5-mark question separately at the base of brain around interpeduncular fossa. So arterial circle of Willis, which is formed by both arterial system, that is carotid and the vertebral. So where it is located? At the base of brain around the interpeduncular fossa. So it is a function here. It is an important anastomosis between two internal carotid arteries in front and a vertebro-basilar system behind. Its main is a principal collateral circulation present in a brain. How it is formed? The arteries which are forming are, there is a right and left internal carotid, right and left anterior cerebral arteries, right and left posterior cerebral, right and left posterior communicating arteries, then anterior communicating arteries. Okay, let's see in this picture. So this is a interpeduncular fossa. So already you know the boundaries of interpeduncular fossa at the base of a brain. So this polygonal arterial arcade which is formed, that is called circle of Willis. So anteriorly, anterior cerebral, anterior communicating, then you can appreciate internal carotid, posterior communicating, posterior cerebral arteries. So this diagrammatic representation will help you to understand. So I repeat the formation of a circle of Willis, which is very important. So anteriorly, anterior communicating, then Anterolaterally, anterior cerebral artery. Laterally, the trunk of internal carotid. This is one important thing you have to remember. The internal carotid are forming the part of a polygonal circle of Willis. Internal carotid laterally. Posterolaterally, posterior communicating artery. Posterolaterally. Posteriorly, posterior cerebral arteries. Posterior cerebral arteries. So this is the circle of Willis, a polygonal circle of Willis. The branches of this circle of Willis, so it give rise to anteromedial branches, pair of anterolateral posteromedial, then paired posterolateral branches. You already know the interpeduncular fossa, boundaries, content, the floor, that is anterior perforated substance, posterior perforated. So I hope you will be well versed with those terms. Then it's easy for knowing these branches. Okay. There could be anomalies of arterial circle, means there could be an absence of one of the anterior cerebral or a double anterior communicating artery could be there, or sometimes the posterior cerebral artery can arises from the internal carotid artery also will be there. So what is the function of this circle of Willis before going into branches? So as I told, this circle, polygonal circle of Willis, which is present at the base of brain, formed by two major arterial systems. This is clear, I think, for everyone. So there is an internal carotid system, then there is a basilar, that is vertebral arteries, right? So together they are forming this circle of Willis. Is it clear? Now, so the function here is to give a equal blood supply to the both parts of a brain. So to give an equal blood supply to all parts of a brain, this polygonal circle is there normally. As there is a equal pressure is present, so at the midpoint of a posterior communicating artery, this is a posterior communicating, so there is a dead point where equal pressure is there. This part is from the internal and this part is from vertebral. So there is no mixing of blood occurs in a normal condition. When there is a block, then a crossing of a blood from one side to the other side, that is midline crossing occurs, and then this anastomotic polygonal circle of Willis will help to supply the blood supply to a opposite side of a part of a brain here. So this is a principal collateral circulation, when normally there won't be any mixing because there is a equal pressure. When there is an occlusion, as there is a pressure difference, so there is from one side to the other side it supplies. Though there is a communication between the branches of external and internal is there, but this is also one of the important polygonal anastomotic circle is present. Now coming to the branches which are given here. So there is an anteromedial branches which are there. These are anteromedial branches. Okay, which pierces the anterior perforated substance and supplies the preoptic and the optic part of a hypothalamus. There is an anterolateral branches which are present here. Okay, can you appreciate? So there is anterolateral branches which are arising from here. Then the anteromedial, one of the medial striate branches, the recurrent artery is there, medial striate artery, that you will be learning in detail. The anterolateral, which pierces and they supply the part of a anterior limb and the genu of the internal capsule. There is a posteromedial central arteries which pierces the base of a brain, that is perforated substance, and supplies the posterior part of hypothalamus, thalamus, that is pulvinar part. Okay, then posterolateral branches which arises from the posterior cerebral artery, they supply the mainly the lentiform and also the hypothalamus thalamus here. So all these are central branches. I repeat, the anteromedial, anterolateral, then posteromedial, posterolateral. All these are central branches of this polygonal circle, and they Central arteries are end arteries. Remember, central arteries are end arteries means they doesn't anastomose with any other. If they rupture or they are occluded, that part of a brain will not have a blood supply. So infarction occurs. So that's why all these arteries are important. So these are striate branches. They are called striate also. So they are central branches. Coming to in detail about internal carotid artery. So its origin, it's a terminal branch of a common carotid artery. It enters in the carotid sheath. So the long course is there. It has in its course, it is divided into cervical, petrous, cavernous, and cerebral. So it forms a carotid siphon, a U-shaped bend during its course, especially the cavernous part where it forms a siphon. Okay. So to function of a carotid siphon is to dampen the pulsation of an artery and to give a continuous blood flow for a brain. That's the reason a carotid siphon, a U-shaped bend is there, which is present at the cavernous. It's a 3-mark question. So let us see the internal carotid artery, origin and the course. So this one you can appreciate. This is a common carotid artery. So it's external and the internal. Two terminal branches which are given in the carotid sheath. The internal carotid artery continue in the carotid sheath along with internal jugular vein. So you already done this part, that is the cervical part. Next comes the petrous part, means it enters the lower opening of the carotid canal. So it enters in the petrous temporal bone, the carotid canal. How does it comes out of this carotid canal is at the foramen lacerum. So here it is first little upward, then directed forward here in the petrous part. It doesn't give any branches in the cervical part. Internal cavity. When it comes into the petrous part, as it is forming anti-wall of a tympanic cavity, if you remember the ear, right, the middle ear. So it gives a keratico-tympanic branches, two branches given here. Then through the foramen lacerum, it enters into the cavernous sinus. It is present in the in the lateral wall and the floor of a cavernous sinus. You can appreciate here. So here it changes the direction. It runs forward, then upward, pierces, then comes backward and upward. So because of that, it forms in a U-shaped, horizontal U-shaped bend. This is a cavernous part. And then it pierces the dura, that is the roof of the cavernous sinus and the arachnoid, and it forms the cerebral part of a internal carotid artery. Let us see in detail. So this one is internal carotid. So this part is a petrous part of a internal carotid artery which is present in the petrous temporal bone. Now it has come through the foramen lacerum here, and now it is present here. This is the cavernous sinus. It is in the lateral wall and the floor of a cavernous sinus. So you can see this is a U-shaped bend. So at medial to the anterior clinoid process, it pierces the roof. Then between the anterior and the middle clinoid process, it runs forward. Okay, you can appreciate here it is beneath the optic tract. Okay, but lateral to the optic nerve here. And here it terminates. So this part is a cerebral part. It terminates into anterior and a middle cerebral artery. So what you have to mainly see in this picture, what I want to show is this carotid siphon. Yeah, again you can see. So the cervical part in the petrous, forward, upward, right? Then this part is cavernous part. Can you appreciate? So it is a siphon which is formed here. Upward, forward, then pierces, comes backward. So this is a U-shaped bend which is there, that is called carotid siphon. Now the cerebral part which is present here. Okay, so you can appreciate. Now the branches doesn't give any branch in the cervical part. In the petrous part, it gives caroticotympanic arteries, you can see, and sometimes a artery to pterygoid canal. In the cavernous, it gives branch to the trigeminal ganglion, That special mention here branch for the meningeal branches, cavernous and superior and inferior hypophyseal branches mainly. These two are given in the cavernous. When it comes to the cerebral part, just isn't it between the anterior and the middle clinoid processes? Here it gives the artery branches is ophthalmic, a posterior communicating, anterior choroidal, then terminates a larger middle cerebral and anterior cerebral. Coming to the branches of cerebral part of internal carotid artery, little in detail. So there is an ophthalmic branch which is given, which is a enters through the optic canal. In the beginning, it is infralateral to the optic nerve. Later, it crosses on its upper surface from lateral to medial. Again, this part you have done in orbit. One of the named branch of ophthalmic, that is dorsal nasal, which terminates by anastomosing with the branch of a facial artery, right? Then central artery of a retina, which is an end artery. Okay, so these are the special mentions. Posterior communicating artery, which is given just before it terminates into two arteries which runs posteriorly, it joins with the posterior cerebral artery, and it is one of the more important component of a polygonal circle of Willis. Anterior choroidal, it has a little longer course in the subarachnoid space here, so it runs laterally and it enters into the inferior horn of a lateral ventricle as an anterior choroidal artery. Along with the choroidal plexus, it also supplies the genu and the posterior limb of an internal capsule here. The terminal branches of an internal carotid artery, so anterior cerebral and a middle cerebral artery. So when you are learning the blood supply of an internal capsule, you will be learning again this anterior choroidal artery. So let us see in the picture. So this part is a cervical part of internal carotid artery. So it is a petrous, right? Then it is, you can appreciate here the cerebral part. So the ophthalmic especially, isn't it, enters the optic canal, then posterior communicating joins to a posterior cerebral, the white color which is given here. Then anterior choroidal artery, a terminal branch, that is anterior cerebral and a middle cerebral arteries. So this is a angiographic picture just to understand the internal carotid. Especially you can see ophthalmic, and also you can appreciate here anterior cerebral and also a middle cerebral. The posterior communicating, how it joins with the posterior cerebral. Coming to in detail about anterior cerebral, each of these arteries, the special mention like a cerebral part of internal carotid or a carotid siphon or the petrous part, cavernous part or anterior cerebral, each one is a short essay question. So origin as it arises, you can appreciate here this internal carotid, it arises, it's a terminal branch of internal carotid artery, right? So course, it enters the medial longitudinal fissure and comes on the medial surface of a cerebral hemisphere. It traverses forward medially after from the internal carotid artery, right? So when it comes on this medial longitudinal fissure here, enters and on a medial surface of a cerebral hemisphere. This is anterior cerebral artery. The branches given by this are orbital artery, a frontopolar, callosum-marginal, which runs along the cingulate sulcus, if you remember the sulcus now. Then a larger branch, that is pericallosal. It terminates just before the parieto-occipital sulcus. The continuation is pericallosal artery. So I repeat, the branches are orbital, frontopolar for the frontal pole, then calloso-marginal and pericallosal, because this anterior cerebral artery runs along the convexity of a corpus callosum. Then when it comes at the parieto-occipital sulcus just in front, it turns upward here. So these are the named branches. So you can appreciate in this picture. So anterior cerebral artery. Okay. So it is running in the along the convexity of the corpus callosum, right? The branches of anterior cerebral, so orbital, frontopolar, callosomarginal, pericallosal. Orbital supplies the medial part of orbital surface of a cerebral hemisphere. Frontopolar mainly the medial surface of a frontal lobe and also the frontal pole. Callosomarginal again medial surface of a parietal lobe. Pericallosal, which is running here, it also supplies the corpus callosum and the medial surface of a parietal. So you can appreciate the named branches. Frontopolar. So special mention here is central. So everywhere when we say a cortical and a central, two different branches will be there for the arteries. So cortical means they supply the gray matter. So surface, they supply the on the surface of a cerebral hemisphere. They form a plexus. From that short and long branches arises, they go into the depth of a gray cortex here. Also part of a white matter. But central, when we say these are branches which supply the substance of the brain, they are all end arteries. They all are end arteries. They doesn't anastomose. So one of the mention here, there are medial striate branches from the anterior cerebral artery. The medial striate branch, named one is called recurrent artery of Habener. As this is special mention here because it is prone for a occlusion. It is prone for a occlusion. So these all are cortical branches. I repeat, anterior cerebral artery which is running along the convexity of a corpus callosum. So cortical branches are orbitofrontal, frontopolar, then callosomarginal, which is again here you can appreciate, which is supplying here a pericallosal, which supplies the inferior superior parietal artery and the corpus callosum. So these are the cortical branches. So you can appreciate the area of distribution of an anterior cerebral artery. So it supplies medial surface of a cerebral hemisphere, frontal lobe, parietal lobe till the parieto-occipital sulcus and a corpus callosum. But it also supplies a strip along a suprolateral surface along here, supromedial margin. So I hope you know already the margins, right? So this is a suprolateral surface, this is a margin. So along this margin, a strip is also supplied by anterior cerebral artery and frontal pole is supplied by anterior cerebral artery. So on a base of a brain, the medial part of a orbital surface is supplied by anterior cerebral artery. So to summarize what we just learned, so with its branches, it supplies orbital surface of frontal lobe, frontal pole, then special gyri, that is cingulate, superior frontal and paracentral lobule. This is very important. You have to remember here. Okay. Then the corpus callosum, the paracentral lobule. If you remember the functional areas, that is primary motor and the sensory cortex. So where paracentral lobule is, mainly what it represents is lower limbs and as upside down representation is there and the bowel bladder control. So that's the reason whenever the anterior cerebral artery is affected, this comes a paracentral lobule, right? So anterior cerebral artery is affected, contralateral paralysis of lower limb along with maybe there is an incontinence of urine will be there. Okay, so this is a paracentral lobule. You have to remember here, if a prefrontal cortex is affected, then the behavioral changes will be there, right? So like that, so you should be able to correlate the symptoms that we and the which artery is affected here. So you can just nicely see this purple color represents the area of distribution of anterior cerebral artery. As I told, the recurrent artery of Habener, 3-mark question can come. So especially I have mentioned here, it arises close to the anterior communicating artery. It supplies, it's also called medial striate artery. So anterior part of a head of a caudate, adjacent part of internal capsule, that is mainly anterior limb and a genu. then the putamen and the septal nuclei. So this is a anterior cerebral, this one is middle. The red color is shown here is a recurrent artery of Hebner. Why it is important is it is prone for as it's commonly affected by an occlusion. Coming to the middle cerebral artery, so it arises origin as it is a term. You already done the internal carotid now, just now, right? So it's one of the terminal branch, but it is a larger terminal branch of an internal carotid artery. So course branches, again cortical and a central will be there. Okay, so this one is internal carotid. So it's one terminal is anterior cerebral. This one is middle cerebral. You can nicely appreciate a polygonal circle of Willis in this picture, right? So there's an internal, posterior connective. Okay, we'll just concentrate on middle cerebral now, right? So here you can appreciate the temporal pole is cut. This is a temporal lobe. The pole is cut so that you can see the middle cerebral trunk. Because how is the course of middle cerebral? It runs forward laterally in a stem of a lateral sulcus. I hope all of you know what is a stem of a lateral sulcus. It enters the stem of a lateral sulcus here, then comes into the, you can see this is the stem of a lateral sulcus that is on a orbital or a base of a brain, and this is a supralateral surface, and it continue into the posterior ramus of a lateral sulcus. So you already learned the lateral sulcus, which is having ascending ramus, then this horizontal or a descending, then there is a posterior ramus. So it has entered into the posterior ramus. See, this is a middle cerebral artery. Here it is, the brain is cut here to understand. Here this is how the lateral sulcus stem will be there. It enters into the insula. It runs over the insula where it gives branches to the insula also, along with cortical branches at the central branches. So what are the branches? It gives the cortical branches, that is anterior temporal, orbitofrontal, pre-Rolandic or a precentral. A central sulcus is also called a Rolandic sulcus, right? Then Rolandic means for the central sulcus, anterior and posterior parietal for the parietal lobe, posterior temporal. So there is anterior temporal and a posterior temporal. This list is given from how it has arisen here. Okay. Then angular. The central branches are there. They are called lenticulostriate branches, which are arising from middle cerebral artery. One artery has to be mentioned, more important here, that is Charcot's artery of cerebral hemorrhage. These lenticulostriate, which are medial and lateral group, are there. The smaller branches which are lateral, both these lenticulostriate branches, they are mainly supplying the internal capsule, that is genu, and the posterior limb, isn't it? So as the small branches are there, they are prone for a hemorrhage in an increased intracranial pressure, isn't it? So whenever there is an increased blood pressure is there, so these arteries can rupture, give rise to a cerebral hemorrhage. So the Charcot has given the name as a Charcot artery of cerebral hemorrhage. So cortical branches, this is a middle cerebral artery, orbitofrontal. You can appreciate. Then a prefrontal, precentral or a pre-Rolandic, central or a Rolandic, post-central or parietal, isn't it? Then there is an angular. The continuation is called angular. Part of a cuneus is supplied by this temporo-occipital, middle temporal. If you look at here, anterior temporal. Look at here what part of a brain is supplied. So again, you should have an idea about the lobes of a brain, sulci, gyri of a brain. So if you look at here, so lateral surface of a frontal lobe, lateral surface of a parietal lobe, then you can see the temporal lobe except along the inferior margin. So if you see, the whole of a supralateral surface is supplied by middle cerebral artery except a strip along the supromedial margin, then occipital lobe with pole, then along the inferior margin of a temporal lobe. So this is the area of distribution of a middle cerebral artery. So if you look at here, the temporal pole is supplied by middle cerebral, frontal pole is supplied by anterior cerebral. So as I was telling, the lenticulostriate arteries, look at here, these are lenticular. Again, you can see a recurrent artery of Fabnar, which is also supplying for internal capsule. If you remember, I think internal capsule is not done for you, which is comes as a white matter. So we'll be learning later. Right now, you can see this caudate nucleus lentiform, which is having a putamen and a globus. Here, it is a internal capsule, right? So this part. Now the lenticulostriate, which are arising from middle cerebral, there is a medial and a lateral group is also there. So these arteries are prone for a increase blood pressure, so they can get rupture, give rise to a what is called as intracerebral hemorrhage, isn't it? So they are called Charcot's artery. In that, the lateral group is more prone. So which are the important functional areas? So motor, that is except for a paracentral lobule. If you remember, anterior cerebral on a medial surface, it is mainly supplying, right? Then the motor speech area, that is especially on the left side, sensory, again except for a paracentral lobule. Then sensory, speech, auditory also is supplied. So if you look at here, if for special functional areas, if you remember, so visual is not mentioned here. Otherwise, most of the special sensory areas are supplied by middle cerebral artery. Coming to the vertebro-basilar artery system. So this is a vertebral artery arises from the first part of a subclavian artery. You can see it enters the upper 6 cervical vertebrae. So foramina transversarium of upper 6 cervical vertebrae is here. Then winds round along the lateral mass of atlas, then pierces here. The pierces atlanto-occipital membrane, then enters through the foramen magnum. Here you can appreciate, okay, it comes in a ventral surface of a medulla to join with the opposite side to form a basilar artery in front of a pons. So this is the course of a vertebral artery. It is a branch of first part. So C6 to C1, remember C7 is not participating here, so it doesn't enter through the C7. Then it enters the foramen magnum, perforates your dura arachnoid and enters the subarachnoid space. Then upward forward medially. Here, this part, upward forward medially. So at the lower border of the pons, it joins to the opposite side to form a basilar artery. Look at here. So this has a long course. This is the cervical part here till the 6th. Then there is a vertebral part because it enters through the foramen transversae. Here it winds around the lateral mass of the atlas. Then in the suboccipital triangle, if you remember, there is a suboccipital part is there. Then it enters the intracranial part. So there is a prevertebral segment, or isn't it? Enters the transverse foramen C6, cervical, atlantic, and the intracranial segment. I appreciate this one. So this is how it has entered the cranial cavity by piercing the dura and the arachnoid. It is in the subarachnoid space, joins with the opposite side to form a basilar artery. So I repeat, the vertebral artery is joined to form a basilar artery at the lower border of pons. These are the vertebral arteries. A vertebral artery runs forward, upward, medially in front of a medulla. At the lower border of a pons, it joins with the opposite side vertebral artery to form a basilar artery. So there is an intracranial part of vertebral artery branches mainly. It does gives branches in the vertebral part, that is radicular branches, but now as we are mainly concentrating on the blood supply of a brain, so the branch is more important here. So we are stressing on an intracranial part of vertebral artery. So the branches given is anterior spinal arteries, To both the side it is given, but they immediately join in the midline to form a midline single artery. Then the pair of a posterior spinal arteries, and the most important is spica or a posterior inferior cerebellar artery. You can appreciate here, this is anterior spinal artery of the both the side joining. Then this one is a posterior spinal artery. This long one which is running here, that is the pica or a posterior inferior cerebellar artery, which is given from a vertebral artery. So this you have to remember the pica. So in this picture you can see the pair of anterior spinal and posterior inferior cerebellar artery which has a longer course, more tortuous, goes posteriorly on a dorsal aspect of cerebellum. It supplies the posterior part of cerebellum along with deep cerebellar nuclei, and that's more important here you have to remember. You can appreciate here, okay. So it is the basilar artery which is formed by union of two vertebral arteries at the lower border of the pons, ascends on the front of the pons, lodged in the basilar groove, and it ends at the upper border of the pons by dividing into two posterior cerebral arteries. Look at here. This is a basilar artery which is formed here by joining the two vertebrae, runs forward on a ventral groove of a pons, and here it terminates at the upper border of a pons into a pair of posterior cerebral arteries. You can appreciate here the basilar artery dividing into posterior cerebral arteries. The branches of basilar artery, short median branches which are there, paramedian, sorry, they are number of branches, pontine. Then labyrinthine for internal, it enters through the internal acoustic meatus and along with the facial nerve and a vestibulocochlear. Anterior inferior cerebellar artery, superior cerebellar artery. The terminal branches is posterior cerebral artery. Read carefully. Posterior cerebral artery. So I repeat here. This is a pair of vertebral joints to form a basilar. Branches of basilar, anterior inferior cerebellar, number of pontine branches, superior cerebellar, then terminal is posterior cerebral, along with labyrinthine artery. You can look at here. So anterior inferior cerebellar, labyrinthine. This is schematic picture. Pontine, superior cerebellar here, and posterior cerebral. Both the posterior cerebral and superior cerebellar, the winds around the crus of the cerebrum or cerebral peduncles. That's a part of a midbrain. You already done here, right? Between them, there is an oculomotor nerve. I'll just show you again in the previous picture. See this one, right? Here. This is important. So posterior cerebral artery in detail. So origin, it arises from a term. It's a terminal branch of a basilar artery. Two terminal branches are there. So course and a branches. Yeah. This is a larger picture you can see now. Okay. So this is basilar artery winding the crus cerebri, part of a midbrain you can see here, and here this one is superior cerebellar artery. Look at here, between the two arteries there is oculomotor nerve. You must have learned with oculomotor nerve the importance is. Again I am showing here, and trochlear nerve between the two arteries. It winds around this posterior cerebral artery. It comes here on a medial surface of a cerebrum and a base of a brain here. You can appreciate, and here it gives branches, that is lateral and the medial branch. Mainly the lateral branch again gives the anterior temporal, posterior temporal, occipitotemporal. The medial branch mainly the calcarine branch and the callosal branch. It supplies anterior temporal, and a posterior temporal lobe through this, and occipitotemporal through this posterior temporal occipital part, then the calcarine, the parieto-occipital, which mainly supplies the cuneus and the precuneus. Calcarine artery is one of the important one, as it runs along the calcarine sulcus. So through along with the visual area for occipital lobe is developed. So it supplies mainly the occipital area, visual area, that is primary visual areas, and callosal. This picture is easy for you. So posterior cerebral artery. So medial branches are visible here. So you can appreciate parieto-occipital and a calcarine. So here, this is a posterior cerebral artery. It has entered. It also supplies the inferior surface and the medial surface. So look at here. This is a callosal branch partly. So the callosal branch running is the, you can see the anterior cerebral. Now here, it supplies the parieto-occipital and a calcarine. Both are running along its named sulci, remember, and supplies the area here. Okay. Then the lateral branch, which are there, anterior, posterior temporal, occipito-temporal here. So area of distribution of a posterior cerebral artery is the complete occipital lobe, then occipito-temporal part, that is inferior aspect of a temporal lobe, and occipital pole. Special mention here is visual areas. So that is occipital visual area, and in the temporal there is an olfactory. So these important functional areas are supplied by posterior cerebral artery. This is a Viva question for you. Here it has to be mentioned that through the calcarine branch, as it is supplying the visual area, so though the supplying, but if a calcarine artery is affected, there is sparing of a macular vision will be there, because there is a anastomosis is there. Otherwise, so what it represents is homonymous hemianopia will be there. So it gives a central branches which are there. What you learned is a cortical. So the central branches are posterior-medial group. That is for the, you can see a thalamo-perforating branches for the hypothalamus, globus pallidus, and posterolateral, that is mainly for the thalamo-geniculate artery, isn't it? It also gives a posterior choroidal artery. From the posterior cerebral, it supplies the choroid plexus of a lateral ventricle and also the third ventricle. So the central branches which are supplying here. So as you learned, there are two choroidal arteries already you learned, that is anterior from the internal carotid artery direct branch, and the posterior from the posterior cerebral artery. Even anterior choroidal is prone for a thrombosis occlusion as it has a longer course. Posterior choroidal is from the posterior cerebral artery. Then the few choroidal branches of posterior inferior cerebellar artery, which is mainly for the fourth ventricle. This one is for a body of a lateral ventricle and third ventricle. This enters into this means antichoroidal inferior horn of a lateral ventricle. Coming to the blood supply of a cerebellum. Yes, mute yourself. So little in detail, because these are the short answers which can come directly. So because there is a separate thing for the brainstem, you are learning already. If you have learned a brainstem, along with that you must have learned the arterial supply and the syndromes. For example, medial medullary syndrome, lateral medullary, because like how I just mentioned that anterior spinal artery supplies the midline zone of the medulla. So if it is affected, medial medullary or lateral medullary syndrome, right? So similarly, cerebellum, here it comes as a separate question. So superior surface of a cerebellum, that is superior cerebellar branches of a basilar artery, superior cerebellar artery. Then there is an anterior inferior cerebellar artery and posterior inferior cerebellar artery. So these are the three arteries which supply the cerebellum. Yeah, just we were discussing about the spinal cord blood supply. So here what you can see is there is an anterior spinal artery. Together they join, they supply the anterior medial portion. Then Lateral part is supplied by the radicular arteries which are arising from the vertebral artery, segmental arteries. Then posterior spinal artery supplies the posterior part of the spinal cord. Now coming to the applied anatomy, which already you learnt along the slides, but here to mention specially. So aneurysm, so it's commonly affect the anterior communicating or anterior cerebral artery or other few branches of a polygonal circle of Willis. So what is this aneurysm? Here is a dilatation of these arteries and it can rupture, and that gives aneurysm, give rise to intracerebral hemorrhage. So direct question can be asked for you, effect of occlusion of anterior cerebral arteries. So here you have to go back that what are the branches given by anterior cerebral, both cortical and the central, and leading to what could be. So in a word, as you learned that anterior cerebral, which is mainly supplying the paracentral lobule, right? Paracentral lobule, that is, it's mainly on the medial aspect, medial surface of frontal, parietal. So directly what we can say is a contralateral paralysis of a lower limb will be there along with other features. But when it is middle cerebral artery is affected, yeah, of course, and paracentral lobule you have to mention here for anterior cerebral, so give rise to maybe there is a incontinence could be there. But when it is a occlusion of a middle cerebral artery which is supplying most of the supralateral surface except the paracentral lobule. So what happens is here contralateral paralysis of face, upper limb, and if it is a dominant, then the speech will be affected here. If there is an occlusion of a posterior cerebral artery, then what happens here is depending on is it supplying the which branch is affected, either a smaller branch or a larger. So it could be a visual area will be affected, along with there could be a cerebellum or a brainstem part will be affected, because the posterior cerebral artery mainly supplies here the visual area, and isn't it? So the visual area will be affected, homonymous hemianopia, but macular sparing will be there. The Charcot's artery we just learned in the beginning, that is lenticrostriate branches of middle cerebral arteries are called Charcot's artery of a hemorrhage. Then one more mention here, the named, that is recurrent artery of Habener, which is arising from the anterior cerebral prone for a occlusion. Now we have finished arterial supply for brain. We'll start with the venous drainage of brain. So it's very simple. So there is a venous drainage of a cerebrum, brainstem, cerebellum. Three parts are there. Little in detail we'll go for a cerebrum. Okay. The brainstem and cerebellum, they run corresponding to the arteries like a and drain into the nearer dural venous sinuses. Already you learned the dural venous sinuses. There we mentioned these are the tributaries, right? Now here you will be learning these tributaries. So superficial, they are arranged, the cerebral veins are arranged as a superficial and the deep. So in the superficial there is a superior cerebral, superficial middle cerebral, inferior cerebral. The deep veins are internal cerebral, basal vein and the great vein of Galen. So superior cerebral, which drains into the superior sagittal sinus, 8 to 10 are there, they run upward, then forward, open into the superior sagittal sinus dural. Superficial middle cerebral, cavernous sinus, okay. The inferior cerebral drains into the superficial middle cerebral vein. There is a superior and inferior anastomotic veins are there. Great cerebral vein, here special mention, it runs behind the splenium of a corpus callosum and forward, formed by the union of two internal cerebral veins here. Okay, they unite with the inferior sagittal sinus, that is, it joins to the straight sinus here. Just I'll show you here. These are the superior cerebral veins which are joining to the superior sagittal sinus here. Superior cerebral 8 to 10. There could be a superior anastomotic vein also, and superficial middle cerebral which runs along the lateral sulcus, and you can appreciate here the inferior anastomotic vein here. So internal cerebral vein which is formed by thalamostriate and a choroidal vein. Together they join to form a pair of internal cerebral. These two internal cerebral, they join to form a great cerebral vein of Galen, which join to a straight sinus. So this picture is helpful for more in detail. So this already dural venous sinuses are shown along with here. You can see these are the superior cerebral veins and the superior anastomotic. What you have to know here is most important is the great vein of Galen can come as a short answer, which is formed by internal cerebral, that is formed by choroidal and the thalamus striate. These two blue colors you can see, thalamus striate and choroidal, they join to form a pair of internal that forms a great vein of Galen. I repeat, it is single, around 2 centimeter, runs below the splenium of a corpus callosum, isn't it? There is a cisterna ambiens, right? And joins to a straight sinus. At the point where it joins to the straight sinus, usually there is a arachnoid granulation is there. So that acts as a ball valve. And that's how it controls the formation of CSF, and that's the reason the great vein of a Galen is important. It is single. Now coming to the cerebral angiograms. So already I have shown these type of angiograms with explanation when I was explaining the internal carotid, but again I am showing here. So this is simple cerebral angiogram in the beginning. So here a dye is used, and you can visualize here in this picture internal carotid is visualized along with, try to visualize the branches anterocoroidal, middle cerebral, anterior cerebral and ophthalmic, right? If you want to visualize the vertebro-basilar system, that all can be visualized. Okay, so this X-ray image is taken. Now this one is again a contrast cerebral angiogram. A contrast is used here. Nicely a polygonal circle. You can see a circle of Willis, right? So a siphon, carotid siphon is present here, right? This is a posterior cerebral, right? Then you can appreciate anterior cerebral, middle cerebral. This is the CT arterial angiogram. Now we have evolved. Now it is the new thing is we can see a CT arterial angiography can be seen here. So nicely you can appreciate internal carotid, a carotid siphon with the middle cerebral, anterior cerebral. Then you can appreciate here, right, the basilar artery, vertebral, right. So there is a superior cerebellar is also visible, right. So this is MRI cerebral angiogram or MR. This is a MR image. What you can see a internal carotid artery with the middle cerebral, anterior communicating. A polygonal circle of Willis is visible here. A basilar artery, then posterior cerebral artery and a posterior communicating artery also nicely visible here. This is one more image of MRI. So you can better visualize here most of the things, a polygonal circle, right? We learned today, we started with what is stroke, then two cases we discussed, right? Then the two arterial system, that is internal carotid and a vertebro-basilar, and each system their branches. So in the internal carotid, special mention branches, that is anterior cerebral, middle cerebral. So each of these gives a cortical and a central branches. Always remember central will be the end arteries, right? Then the vertebral system, in that we learnt mainly the posterior inferior cerebellar, basilar artery and their branches, that is posterior cerebral. Again that gives cortical, central and choroidal, anterior inferior cerebellar and a superior. So a blood supply for cerebellum, blood supply for spinal cord along with blood supply for cerebrum. The brainstem part, that is pons, medulla and midbrain, that you already learned with your sections along with immediately which artery named artery, sorry, and the syndromes which are formed there, right? So up here, just for your knowledge, there is a World Stroke Day they celebrate, because stroke is the one thing, it has to be acted fast. So whenever a person has a complaint of a paralysis or a weakness of a contralateral face or a movement of a upper limb, then loss of a speech, slurred speech is there. So immediately the fastest action can save a person here. So because you already know that how crucial is a blood supply for brain here is, isn't it? Around 20% of our cardiac output is given per minute to the brain. That's the reason. So there is I think 2019 they had a caption of fast as a word. Fast, F means for a face and the upper arm, then speech S, and T for a timely action. So I think this year they may release one more. So World Stroke Day is celebrated as 29th October. This is just for your knowledge. So please, before learning blood supply, revise all the functional areas. You should have well versed with sulci, gyri, functional areas, parts of a brain. Then start reading about the blood vessels. Then becomes easy for you, and practice the diagram, especially the supralateral surface showing the and middle cerebral, and on a medial surface showing the anterior and a posterior cerebral artery. These which I have shown you, and it's given in your regular textbook like Vishram Singh also. Practice the diagrams, then practice circle of Willis. Very, very important. A diagram of circle of Willis with its branches. All the components should be there. Thank you. Any questions? ಇದು Sunil? Attendance ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ?